This is Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on. No choice but get on. Mandate. Get it on. Welcome to the best hour or so in the universe. It's Reasonable Doubt. I'm Adam Carolla. That's Mark Hardout Garrigus sitting in studio by my side. We were talking off the air, and I guess that'll bleed onto the air about sort of homelessness thought experiment. But, but this will help people in general make sense of things. You know what I mean? And I think this is a problem we're having, which is, you will be a homeless expert just like you could be a COVID expert if you just sort of walk around. If you watch CNN 14 hours a day, you're going to know less about COVID and less about homelessness. If you listen to Gavin Newsom, you will know less about the homeless problem versus walking around. And the same with COVID. You would know less about COVID if you listen to Barbara Ferrer in Los Angeles versus just sort of looking around. And I know it maybe flies in the face of this new data-driven world we're living in, but I have young kids. They have a ton of friends. The neighborhood is lousy with young kids running around, and none of them have been claimed by COVID, injured by COVID, or even knocked down for more than 2 days, to the best of my knowledge, from COVID. No one's gone to the hospital. So for me, it's not affecting kids because I walk around with my head on a swivel. And you want to be a homeless expert, you don't see any mothers of three out there working at Taco Bell who are then sleeping on the sidewalk that night. But the question I posed on my podcast was, who do you know who has ever spent the night on a slab of concrete under a freeway overpass who wasn't jacked out of their mind? I have slept outside, well, in this country twice, 4 times. Twice in this country and twice in Tijuana. Both have been...
Is the Tijuana, did it start out that way as a plan? Because I'm guessing
it's 3.5 times. One was I did bivouac on the beach in Tijuana back in the day with the blanket I took from my bed. And there was another situation where I passed out in an alley behind Margarita's Village. And then there was a time when I was 16 when I passed out in my driveway.
And you've never passed out since then? Outside?
I had a box spring on my 21st birthday behind a party I was at in an alley. And then I had my driveway, my dad's house. And then I had the alley behind Margarita's Village. And then I had the beach in Tijuana.
Wow.
But who do you know, including yourself, who has thought it would be a good idea to go to bed on a sidewalk without being beaked out of their brain on something? And if the answer is nobody, then go ahead and count all those people that are sleeping in a box as on something.
So what sparked this conversation, since you guys weren't in the studio with us before, is we just did Megyn Kelly, and they had played that video that you and I had played, where there's a gentleman who's extremely in distress on Ventura Boulevard, and he's throwing bags of feces at the store owner or the business owner, and Adam was also using the term homeless, which is, I schooled him on.
Previously housed or unhoused.
Unhoused, yes. But why don't you give the thought experiment that you came up with that led us into this discussion? Because it's a pretty good way to, as you determine, reverse engineer it.
Well, houses in the area he was throwing the bags of shit, and we don't know exactly, but Ventura Boulevard does Studio City, that goes into Sherman Oaks, that goes into Encino, and in Reseda, it just kind of keeps going down the line. But if you want to buy a house around Ventura Boulevard, it'll go up over $5 million, and you're not going to find anything for under 1.5. So the thought experiment is, all right, houses are $1.5 million. That's too much for this guy. But it's too much for everyone in this building except for you and I. I mean, it's too much for everyone I went to high school with. I mean, it is too much, granted. But let's use your logic. All right, let's say Governor Newsom or Mayor whomever had a magic wand and the $1.5 million house could be reduced to $75,000.
Right.
Do you think the crazy, Armo guy with his shirt off who's throwing sacks of his own fecal matter at an SUV, do you think he could go into the B of A or the Washington Mutual that's on Laurel and Ventura?
Right.
Do you think he could walk in there shirtless with a sack of shit for collateral and fill out the proper paperwork, show the pay stubs, and get approved for a loan and then rustle up 20% down?
Yeah.
I think no.
You're doubting
I say
that?
no. So is it the price of the house?
It does not appear to be. But
it's the price of the house for Gina Grad and her husband who are renting in NoHo who would like to have a house in Sherman Oaks and be a homeowner. For them, it is the price. But she's not sleeping on a sidewalk and throwing a sack of her shit around.
So maybe, let me be the contrarian, maybe the end game here is if we make Ventura Boulevard such a shithole that nobody can do business, the businesses flee, kind of like downtown. We replicate what we're doing downtown L.A. We make it such a shithole that we bring the housing prices down because you can't do business.
Right.
And then these guys can afford it. Like Dr. Alien wouldn't have to sit in Lebanon Alley, but L.A. has become such a shithole that they can't sell condos. We've got a glut of housing, and that would solve the problem.
Well, we could try it. I think we are trying.
We are trying.
That's our experiment.
What do you mean we could win? That's the experiment. But we digress. We'll talk about one of these things that I thought you saw where Trump is now suing the CNN. Mm-hmm. And you were one of the ones who you'd kind of laid out a blueprint for this with Nicholas Sandmann. And
yes. James O'Keefe, Alex Berenson.
Right.
A lot of people are suing a lot of platforms and entities and cable outlets and things like that. Yes.
Right. And so my read on this, and I've done a couple of...
and Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yep.
Yeah, he will be suing. He is suing.
So my read on this is you read the lawsuit and other legal commentators have just savaged the lawsuit. I mean, people that I know and people on the air. I mean, if you talk on MSNBC, they will tell you this is the most batshit crazy lawsuit you will ever see in your life.
Right.
And I also mentioned
you could find a nice cross commingling of the people that said the Hunter Biden laptop was clearly Russian collusion 2 years ago, and now the ones that are saying this lawsuit is batshit crazy. It's going to be a lot of the same people up there, so you can listen, but probably not with both ears.
So I also got to thinking, and this is what kind of triggered it. This week I'd mentioned to you, Adam, that the Lawrence Silberman, who is a very towering figure in conservative circles, passed away. And why is that relevant? Because he, last year, I believe, in 2021, Gary may find it, he authored a dissent, I believe, in a case where he argued, and has been arguing, that the New York Times versus Sullivan, which is the malice requirement, when you're a public figure, that the press can come after you basically with abandon. Sarah Palin tried suing the New York Times, and the judge didn't even let it. Well, I mean, he let it get to the jury, then announced he was taking it away from the jury, and that's now on appeal here. But the bar is so high to sue a news outlet, even if you can tell what's said is demonstrably false. Here in America, at least, that Justice Silberman has tried to fertilize this idea, if you will, by his dissents, that it's time to revisit the opinion. Now, people will say, well, maybe he's an outlier. No, he was one of the ones who wrote also an opinion that became what ended up changing the Second Amendment in Heller. I mean, he was always on the vanguard on the right. And he's also the one, Gary may find it, who was saying that, I think his term was, that the traditional media outlets are broadsheets, or the kind of a house organ for the left. So when people are telling you that, and by the way, 10 months ago, if I had told you that the U.S. Supreme Court was going to overrule Dobbs, you would have said, no, that's never going to happen.
Yes,
right?
I have said that.
Yeah. So is it so crazy that we could be in a world where this lawsuit may not get anywhere at the district court level, but Trump filed in federal court, which means it's 2 steps up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Could you see a case like his, or maybe one of the others that's percolating, where the U.S. Supreme Court says, you know what, by the way, that was then, this is now, and New York Times versus Sullivan and the malice requirement does not work in this age. We need something that's closer to some of the more European countries or something like that, where if you can show that somebody had malice, maybe we lessen that standard. I can see a world where this could be a case that would be the one that would overturn New York Times versus Sullivan.
Well, I always preface these statements, which is I'm not a litigious person, and I've always railed against it. On the other hand, if you need to stop something, and this seems to be the only avenue, then I'm all for it. I'm all for Kyle Rittenhouse and Nicholas Sandmann. These are 2 minors that got railroaded by many news outlets, including The View, and celebrities doxing them, and so on and so forth. I mean, really a ruined reputation, and/or I would be for the Duke lacrosse team suing, Mike Nifong, the prosecutor. Like, I'm not litigious, but if it's the only thing that's going to stop these people from smearing people, especially when they have access to the evidence, then I am for it. And CNN spent years just attacking Trump and smearing Trump. I don't think it was – I think it was to the detriment of the country. And also, a lot of it was just sort of insane journalism. Like, somebody told us that he took a leak on the grave of the unknown soldier and called him a loser. And they're just going to run with it. So
this is what and I'll take it one step farther, because I had that case in Utah, and the U.S. Supreme Court had ordered for their briefing, but yesterday denied certiorari on a case that now stands for the proposition. The Dylan Taylor case, Gary has played the clip, stands for the proposition that a cop can, by 2-1 decision, can drive up to a young male and, based on a 911 call of an inebriated person, can pull out his gun and in 22 seconds can execute the person.
Yes, I'm all for that as well, and maybe it's a new world order. I'm for being able to sue the FBI if they decide that they're going to do some pre-dawn raid on your home on a case that was already adjudicated and thrown out. Like, look, my point is I don't want to sue more people. I want more people to stop doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and that includes CNN. I mean, if you take a look, I would like to sue CNN. Look, I like that Alex Berenstein has sued Twitter, because we as a nation, could have used voices like Alex Berenstein's during the COVID crisis. We could have used a few voices of sanity instead of Chicken Little running around with their hair on fire. But they got deplatformed and canceled. It's not between, Alex Berenson and CNN, or Alex Berenson and Twitter, or James O'Keefe and CNN, or the New York Times versus Nicholas Sandmann. It's all of us. We're all getting sucked into this crazy hysteria because these people won't pump the brakes, but they will pump the brakes if they've been
If there's some kind of challenge.
I mean, you tell me if there's another Nicholas Sandmann or another Kyle Rittenhouse case, and CNN just wants to go headlong into it about how his mom drove him and he knows no one in Wisconsin and he had an M16 on his lap. Don't you think they're going to pump the brakes? You have to.
There is no question that they will.
It is no different. By the way, let's just go micro and forget about, macro. You go into your law office, you see one of your junior lackeys eyeballing you, and you go, get the fuck out of here. I don't like that look on your face. You're fired and you get no severance or whatever. Okay, that guy lawyers up and he sues you. And next thing you know, you settle up with $500,000. Aren't you going to slow your roll next time you walk into the office in a bad mood and see someone eyeballing you?
I'm going to enhance or embrace remote workplace.
Yes, that's how it works. CNN cuts a few checks and then they slow the roll. All right, let me tell you about Rocket Money. Sick of managing your finances with buggy spreadsheets? Afraid to look at your bank statements? Take back control of your financial life. Meet Rocket Money, formerly Truebill, our favorite financial app. Why did Truebill change its name to Rocket Money? Now backed by Rocket Companies. Truebill has grown from a bill management app into a full personal finance empowerment tool. Rocket Money helps over 3.4 million people with budgeting, lowering bills, canceling subscriptions, and more. Their members save on average $700 a year, and I bet you'll save more than that. Rocket Money, everything I've loved about Truebill, with a fresh look and feel. It's Rocket Money. Right, Gary?
Start canceling your unused subscriptions and save money at rocketmoney.com/doubt. That's rocketmoney.com/doubt. Or download the Rocket Money app from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store today. rocketmoney.com/doubt.
So I think Trump could definitely prove malice. I don't know where the malice bar is, but he definitely could prove malice. I don't think CNN wants to get into discovery because there's going to be a lot of, paperwork out there. Not to mention, with the new regime at CNN, there may be a couple whistleblowers that come forward as well.
Exactly what I think. I mean, it's apparent to me, at least, that this lawsuit was drafted, number one, as a legal document. Number two, it's also a political document. And the problem with the one downside, and there's always going to be a tension, but the downside to the political document is that it's focused on recent events, whereas a legal document, it carries a lot more weight if it was, hey, when I was president, this was all happening.
Any updates on Tin Horn Flats?
It's interesting. They've come at Barrett now 2 times. Once on a demur, which was overruled on the grounds of the First Amendment retaliation, then a judgment on the pleadings. Now we're in the discovery phase, which is your favorite phase of any lawsuit. And we will have some depositions set. We will be doing requests for admissions, and we're going to ask for internal documents, which we're entitled to because the city of Burbank is a public entity. And I'm kind of excited about it, I have to tell you, because we have survived and gone where no one has gone before.
Yeah, in terms of this case.
Yeah, in terms of this case, because
there's no precedent.
There's no precedent. I want Gary to pull up the text of this bill because I wanted to show something that really has been bugging me. The one that was signed here, and you and I just talked about it with Megyn, and for those who aren't in the weeds here in California, we now have enacted into law the idea that the medical board, that's who licenses physicians, can come and take action against physicians for basically not towing the line.
Right.
And you've talked about it with Drew endlessly. I've talked about it. And here, Gary's going to pull it up. Do you have the one portion where they've got COVID-19, Gary? Because this is, I want to make I steal this from you, Adam, because this is your thought. my law school professor would characterize this as the parade of horribles. You make an argument that if you let this happen, then here's the parade of things that are going to happen next, right?
Right.
Isn't that your theory?
Yeah, I mean, I used to make fun of Slippery Slope guy. Gary, you can probably find, or Emmy, you can probably find Slippery Slope guy from the Adam Carolla show, which it was an interstitial I used to do along with 1780s guy. But I used to make fun of it. On the other hand, I'm now buying into it, which is
you're like, yeah, here it is. This is it. Gary, go. I think I can't see that well, but I think it's the third paragraph, isn't it? Can you read that, Adam? I wish I could.
The third paragraph says, I am signing this bill because it is narrowly tailored to apply only to those egregious instances in which a licensee is acting with malice, intent, or clearly deviating from the required standard of care while interacting directly with a patient under their care. Well, obviously, the problem, the Catholic Church locked up Galileo because he said the earth was round or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that was the standard back then.
So this is what kills me. To be clear, it does not apply to any speech outside of discussions. This is the governor's statement. Outside of discussions directly related to COVID-19 treatment within a direct physician-patient relationship. Okay, can we break that down for a second? The same person, and I'm with them on this area, the same person who says I want bodily autonomy. You're affecting me and getting into the physician-patient relationship when it comes to abortion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're saying that it doesn't apply to any speech outside of decisions directly related to COVID-19 treatment within a direct physician-patient relationship. How do you get in that?
Right.
Last time I looked, that's a privileged relationship.
Right. Yes.
Just like if it's attorney-client. You come to me or Gary comes to me. They want attorney-client advice. So what? The government then comes to the door, knocks, and says, tell me what your client just told you.
Right.
But no, that's privilege. Well, sorry, we've got an exception to the privilege. We need to get into the middle of that. Isn't that the whole argument that Governor Newsom has been making about abortion?
Yes.
Identical.
Right. Yes, it's up to her. It's up to the doctor. And
right.
By the way, is there a problem with malicious doctors and their clients? You know what I mean? I have COVID. You need to jump off a bridge. That's the only way it's going to cure it. Like, it's not a problem. But here's the whole thing, Mr. We're still living under emergency orders
right.
2.5 years on. It's fine. Do what you want to do. Stop calling the new prime minister of Italy a fascist and stop calling Ron DeSantis a fascist. That's all.
Right. And what are you worried about? Ron DeSantis can't win the presidency, not with that voice. What are you worried about? You really think America is going to elect that guy with that voice?
We will we'll see
find
if
out in a second. Speaking of voice, yeah. This something that I got turned on to by Gary, which I use not just daily but hourly. We rely on devices so much, it's easy to forget the hardware you're born with, our ears.
Right.
No two are exactly alike, so your earbuds probably cause discomfort or pain. You're not kidding. UE, Ultimate Ears, fits true wireless, custom fit earbuds from the Ultimate Ears. Premium sound, all-day comfort. Talk about a great experience. They practically mold to your ears. Back in the old days, you remember you used to do TV and they'd have to
IFB.
The IFB, exactly. This is like, it's not even the next generation. It's like
tech would have to come out and do a mold.
Yeah, exactly. And then they tell you, we'll get it back to you in 3 days. This guaranteed perfect fit in 60 seconds. 8 hours continuous playback on a single charge. 20 hours with the charging case. If you try them and don't love them as much as I do, they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. Plus shipping free returns, and a 1-year warranty. By the way, Gary, you know the ones I got? You know, I didn't get to use the guarantee. You know why? Jake stole them.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I gave away my other earbuds to my wife the second I got these, and I haven't looked back. They're the best. Let's see. Use promo code DOUBT at UE.com/fits to get your pair of UE fits. That's UE.com/fits, promo code DOUBT.
So
we also have a Barbara Ferrer clip somewhere floating around my Twitter that, speaking of people and their autonomy, I don't know if you saw that clip, but she's a health czar of Los Angeles, and she is not down with these people when their freedom of speech and their freedom to assemble. She's not down with it.
I don't understand why there isn't an uproar about this idea that I can't go to my doctor and have a conversation. Does that scare you at all? And why? Because I'm with you on don't get in the middle of if I'm a woman, my doctor, physician, patient privilege, the medical issue.
We don't want the government.
Yeah, we don't want the government getting in the middle of that. My body, my choice. I'm with you 1,000%. Why is there an exception? And he says, outside of COVID, we don't worry about it.
Well, another thought experiment. I'll open it up to Gary as well. What controversial information? I'm not talking about far super, tinfoil hat wearing whatever, but what controversy has been brought up by the folks that were deplatformed, the doctors, the physicians, the epidemiologists? What exactly was put forth? There was ivermectin. Now, ivermectin is inert at best. Maybe it helps. Maybe it doesn't. Sort of like saying, take a Flintstones chewable. Hydroxychloroquine, again, been around for 50 years. The entire world is on it. And it's one of the only medications you don't have to cease taking after you become pregnant. So that's how inert it is. Things of maybe we shouldn't shut down outdoor dining, or maybe we shouldn't shut down the beaches, or get outside. Walking around outside without a mask is not harmful. And masks, especially the paper ones on an airplane, especially when you're pulling it down to have some chips, not effective. But what I'm saying, what I would say to Gavin Newsom is there is this thing you want to prevent, right? This misinformation. I've heard you talk about it a lot. I've heard CNN talk about it. I've heard all the doctors on CNN talk about it. Let's be more specific. What are we talking about, and who has it affected? So Sanjay Gupta went nuts on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is doing squats somewhere right now and making $1 kajillion. You tell me the people that took ivermectin, the people that took hydroxychloroquine, the people that didn't wear their mask outside after you locked down the horse trails in back of our homes. You got to tell me what happened last time before I'll sign off. See, if you said to me, well, the last time you had this big group of doctors saying X, Y, and Z, and a lot of people were killed because of it, then I still am against what you're peddling, but at least I can figure out what the rationale is. So far, all I got is there were a bunch of doctors who disagreed with what you said, who turned out to be right. That's all I got. And you want to shut them up for the next round.
And the reason that and we go back to Slippery Slope Guy, you take a look at what we had up on the screen. And you said, don't worry, this doesn't go beyond COVID-19, right?
Right.
And you made the point, and it's a simple legislative kind of blueprint. They have a session, and they say, we're going to amend. We're not going to repeal this
Megyn
bill.
Kelly made this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I made the point.
You
but
made
it's
the point.
basically, we're going, look, it's COVID-19 or other similar pandemic.
So the next thing you do, you just put a red line through it, you pass the bill, and all of a sudden you expand it.
Right.
And you expand it to any medical issue that you want, or you expand it to, accepted medical science, right?
We have 3 Slippery Slope guys from my late night show 15 years ago or whatever.
And now, an editorial from Slippery Slope Guy on Hollywood propaganda.
Do I like going to the movies? Sure. $8 for 2 hours of entertainment? Not a bad deal. But it's a slippery slope. The next thing you know, Commander Streisand's got a war chest of $10 billion. The 4th of July has been replaced by Yom Kippur, and jackbooted government thugs are storming your house and forcing you to watch Will and Grace at knife point, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
Let's roll into the next one here. I like these.
And now, an editorial from Slippery Slope Guy on medical marijuana.
Does marijuana have some medical value? Maybe. But it's a slippery slope. First, your doctor's prescribing pot for your mother's glaucoma. Then he's treating your kid's head lice with hashish. And the next thing you know, a gang of government-funded hippies has stormed your house and forced your infant to mainline a speedball, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
One more.
Take one more, please.
And now, an editorial from Slippery Slope Guy on flag burning.
Do I believe in the First Amendment? You bet. But it's a slippery slope. You let a guy burn the symbol of America, and the next thing you know, he's burning the Bank of America. And then he's burning the Mall of America, and then he's burning Miss America, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
Have you now come back to Slippery Slope?
Well, I used to make fun of it, but I'm not with emergency orders and that never go away. And taxes,
I say the
we
same
pay
thing.
$7 for gas, but that tax is going into the roads.
Did you ever think a movie for two would be the same price as a gallon of gas?
No, it's crazy. I heard simultaneously in California, we got $7 a gallon at our house.
I just walked by.
I just took a picture of it. We got $7 a gallon, and we simultaneously, someone sent me a tweet, that we have the worst roads. In America as well. So this notion of we'll just take some of the money from over here and then we'll put it into the... It never works.
So you were Slippery Slope Guy. I was Parade of Horribles. See how much the world has changed?
We have Barbara Ferrer for 26 seconds, too. She's upset over people having autonomy.
There are some people who have seen this as a time to really promote individual liberty and freedom, a sort of sense of entitlement, of being able to make our own rules as individuals. But that is a tiny fraction of the people, and that represents a tiny fraction of what's actually happening.
I don't know.
What does that mean?
She's saying there's certain Americans who like thinking for themselves. Like, I'm going to go walk on the horse trail even when you close off the horse trail. But that's a small group, and don't worry, we'll crush them. We'll knock all the spirit out of those agitators. By the way, hey, bitch, what country do you live in? It's crazy, right?
I don't even understand it. It's we know better than you, even though it's demonstrably false that we do, and we're going to continue. But how do you advocate one position from a baseline of you can't get into the middle of my relationship, for instance, with my doctor, but at the other time, at the same time, 30 seconds later, you're legislating that you're going to get into it. How do you keep those two thoughts there?
It doesn't matter. They're done being consistent or even saying, how would this look? Or what about when people throw this? They just go, fuck it. We're just doing what we want to do.
I don't get it. I'm gonna, before we go, can I wrap up? Or wait.
Let me hit one first, because I got one first.
Okay.
Segura, the industry's most premium products, including highly sought-after limited edition items, exclusive top-shelf Segura samplers for brands such as Davidoff and Ashton, large selection of high-end boutique products, and nationally distributed regular production favorites as well. Connect with fellow cigar smokers in their lounge, along with staff experts, manufacturers, and more. Connect with the community of cigar lovers, shop boutique cigars, and share experiences. It's a one-of-a-kind cigar-based community with curated selections of industry-related content that includes reviews, pairings, beginners' questions, and more. So if you like a good cigar, Segura is where you go. Go to Segura.com. That's Sigora.com. And tell them Adam sent you, right, Gary?
That's right. While you're there to help relax, enjoy a free gift from Segura. When you spend $49 or more, use code WELCOME at checkout for a free Founders Box. This is an expertly curated sampler with a $45 value for free. That's Sigora.com. Promo code WELCOME.
All right, what else you got?
The last story, Gary, do you want to do, because as we're recording this, a federal jury just came back, I believe it with a split decision. They've been trying a FBI agent by the name of Bruman, who is charged with taking bribes from a gentleman by the name of Edgar Sargsyan. Guess the ethnicity.
Boy. Yeah.
Okay. Edgar Sargsyan, up until 2 weeks ago, people thought was a lawyer of Armenian descent practicing here in California for the last 4 years. And on the eve of trial, I believe a week and a half ago, finally admitted to the U.S. Attorney's Office that, in fact, he wasn't really a licensed lawyer. Or actually, he was a licensed lawyer.
He was a licensed lawyer. He just
he never took the bar exam.
He paid somebody $20,000 a month to study for and then take the exam using a fake ID.
Armo.
And then he gave him a Rolex when he passed.
Gave him a Rolex when he passed. When I read this, and by the way, this guy also testified against the client
I
of
bet
mine.
it was a fake Rolex if I know your people. I would have gone right down to the fucking jeweler or the pawn shop.
It doesn't have the sweep hand on the thing. It ticks like that so that you know he bought it for $20 on Broadway in the Flatiron District. The guy who took the exam for him, who I don't know if he's Armenian, but Henrik, was his partner and also acted as his lawyer. Now, mind you, I've been complaining about this guy for years, this Sargsyan, that everything he touches is complete fraud. And so he admits that he wasn't a lawyer. Unfortunately, he had given this FBI agent a motorcycle, a Ducati, and one other thing, Gary, $10,000 to his head lice or his lice company.
Well, a lot of the money that he was given went through the head lice company. He was getting $10,000 a month to sort of be on the payroll, and then there were two separate payments of $30,000 each. One was when the FBI agent's father passed, and he had to clear out his business, and another was to help him buy a house in Lake Tahoe.
So the lawyer who's not a lawyer is giving the FBI agent money.
Yeah. Exactly.
And for what in return?
To run database checks on him and his associates to make sure that they weren't under surveillance.
So it's just an inside guy to get information.
Correct.
Yeah. And so is the FBI guy who's on trial right now?
The FBI guy just got convicted. Interestingly, the jury, after the conviction, which was announced this morning, they moved straight into what's called the forfeiture phase. And I believe, Gary, you can confirm, it looks like forfeiture, they wanted to forfeit his house. The government said, okay, you were taking these illegal payments. And the jury said, no, we're not doing that. We're not going there. We're not forfeiting your $2 million house in Lake Tahoe, which I thought was interesting.
Because you think maybe they've seen too much government overreach in the last couple of years?
I think that there's always, most people recoil against this idea of the government just, okay, maybe we'll convict you, but we're not going to let you just strip somebody of their assets. You know what I mean? There's you would call it government overreach. I would just say a bridge too far.
Yeah, well, the FBI has definitely had their stock go down over the last several months.
If you were buying options, you'd buy puts on the FBI, right?
I would say that if the Republicans have their way in the Congress and the Senate in the upcoming elections, you're going to see a lot of FBI stuff, and I think there's going to be a lot of bad stuff that will be uncovered.
Well, and by the way, we predicted before, and I think it's a fait accompli. Obviously, there's less than or just a shy more than 30 days. I don't think there's a question that the House is going to go to the Republicans. House goes to the Republicans. They're going to do exactly what the Democrats did. We're going to have Benghazi redux, and then people are going to be complaining about that on my side of the aisle, and it'll be just like what we've always said. Hey, you loved the independent counsel, or you hated independent counsel when they're coming after Clinton, or you love the independent counsel when they're coming after Trump. And the same thing. You loved impeachment when it was going against Trump. Well, what are you going to do about impeachment when it's coming at Biden?
Yeah, I'll tell you the slippery slope guy we're living in, which is not what we want. We talked about this. So there's a FBI white supremacy version of it, and then there's a COVID version of it, which is you say domestic terrorists and white supremacy is the biggest problem this country has, and then you enlist your FBI to go make it so. And we did the same thing with COVID. We're like, this is a pandemic. We need to shut down society. Hey, hospitals, if a guy comes in here after getting in a motorcycle accident, if he bleeds out but tests positive for COVID, mark it as a COVID death. People, you do not want your government doing a make me right, will me right. That is, we've seen it over and over again. It's very dangerous way to conduct a government. I will, this guy disagrees with me, go find something that, get him to come in and talk. When he comes in and talks, if he starts lying, then we'll just get him on perjury, and then we'll
right, false statements.
We don't want this type of government. I'm telling you, even if you think it's your side or his side or her side or our side, you still do not want this. You want a pandemic, deaths to be counted as actual deaths from COVID-19, not from gunshots and motorcycle accidents. You don't want a padded number, and you don't want to pad the number of white supremacists by including irate moms at school board meetings.
You know what you do want?
Oh, Geico.
Yeah, look at that. Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. Can be hard work. What's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or your renter's insurance along with your auto policy. Hey, Emmy, it's spelled right, too. Geico. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's Geico, right? Right? Okay. Geico.com.
All right.
The joke never gets old, I'll tell you. They laugh every time.
All right. You can check me out October 19th. I'll be at the Hollywood Improv. I think Jeff Ross will be up with me there, and Brad Williams will be up with me, and we'll keep you posted on that. Live shows coming up everywhere. San Diego, St. Louis, Tempe. Just go to adamcroll.com for all the live shows. What do you got, Mark? Bi-coastal
we've got Dirty Taco in Grand Central Terminal. Go by there and mention Adam or Reasonable Doubt, and Jake may take care of you. And then I think at V Palm Springs, if I'm not mistaken, Corolla Drinks is down there this weekend. So, stop by the V or Gigi's and see them and toss a couple of back for Adam. Keep the pirate ship going, right?
So, thank you. Until next time, it's Adam Kroll for Mark Garriga saying Mahala.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Tune in next Saturday for an all-new episode.